So, in the end, what can I say about episode of JoJo? It was freaking fantastic, like always. We got a bonding episode for Joseph and Josuke, on top of the fact we got this baby that Joseph and Josuke had to find the mother of because she's gone invisible. And I thought to myself, okay, so you kind of got a baby and she's invisible, and sometimes if she doesn't, the way that she doesn't like being touched by someone else or being held by someone else, she kind of makes stuff more invisible. And the fact when she gets more scared, the radius in which she can actually make things invisible grows bigger. I thought to myself, kind of leads to a bit more interesting kind of concepts in this episode, I must say. Even that scene in the water when Josuke is kind of just standing there going, I can't find her, where is she? I can't see her anyway. And then Josuke just goes, oh, I'm old, but I'm going to do something really like, kind of out there. I'm going to slit my wrist and allow for the blood to kind of travel in the water, make colour for the water, so when the baby appears, the actual water and the colour of the water will disappear, so you actually be able to see her. And in the end, he actually finds her in the centre of the water. I thought to myself, Joseph, why would you do that? Because I was really scared. I was like, is Joseph gonna die? I was like, I can't accept this. He's just come back. He said, "Oh my god," in this episode. I was like, I was completely content at that point. And almost dying kind of made me like, I was like, just, I can't accept this. I wouldn't be able to accept it. I'd be a destroyed person if that was going to happen. But no, in the end, it's basically for Josuke to actually realise how much of a good person Joseph really is, and kind of just realise at that point what kind of person Joseph really is. And it actually kind of works because he actually kind of opens up a little bit more to him at the end. And it really did work. This whole episode in its entirety worked really freaking well, just to kind of bond Josuke and Joseph. Because at first, he's kind of really against the whole entire idea. He doesn't really want to call him Dad or Pops because he hasn't seen him for a very long time. You can see where Joseph's coming from. Joseph hasn't been there for the best part of his whole entire life, so he really just can't get used to the whole idea of seeing someone just come out of the blue and call him father or call him Pops. He just can't get used to the whole idea. So in the end, he just calls him Mr. Joestar. Even when Joseph actually kind of reveals where the baby is in the water, he'd still at that point still calls him Mr. Joestar. He's still opened a little bit, but still hasn't fully comprehended the whole idea of him being his dad. So I liked it because at first he's just like, I just can't see you as my dad, and it's just you can see Joseph gets strung up the whole entire ordeal because he says, freaking hell, like why? Like he's strung up when he says, I'm gonna call him Mr. Joestar, and it's like, it's kind of depressing because, yeah, you can see where Joseph is coming from, because Joseph hasn't seen him for a very long time. The best part of his whole entire life hasn't seen him, and then Joseph kind of understands in a way where he's coming from as well. But it's a whole idea as well that he wouldn't even let him go to speak to his mum. He has to stand up. He can only look from a distance. He can't actually go and see his mum. It's kind of just really depressing because, again, you can see where that's coming from as well. Because if Joseph were to go to see Josuke's mum, she'd be an emotional wreck. She would know how to kind of comprehend the whole entire situation because, again, she hasn't seen him in a very long time. Even when that episode, when Jotaro gets to see Josuke's mum, she says, oh my god, Joseph, you're back, I never actually stopped loving you. At that point, you kind of realise, yeah, she still actually has some feelings for him. So maybe if he were to come back and see him in the state that he's in right now, it would kind of destroy her in a way. So I can see where it's coming from. But also get a semblance that Josuke really just can't call Joseph a dad because he can't see him as being responsible. He calls him really irresponsible. He says, stay out of this. Once the baby actually ends up in the ravine or the river, he actually kind of says, stay out of this, because he actually kind of puts a blame on Joseph because Joseph wasn't really paying attention when the baby was actually kind of falling down the actual hill into the river. He just actually wasn't paying attention because what happened was a bloke who was passing by on a bike threw a cigarette into the actual like pram as the actual pram was disappearing, and then Joseph tried to actually save the baby from the actual cigarette butt, but in turn he kind of spaced out and the actual pram went down the actual like hill. I thought to myself, okay, but in the end Joseph's kind of sitting there going, oh, what has happened here? And he says you can't space out these kind of situations, you can't just sit there and do nothing. And it's true. And then in the end, Joseph just kind of just says to him, like, look, I can't really call this person irresponsible, in the sense was he this irresponsible to leave my mum for this long, this whole entire time? He's that irresponsible as well. So you can see Joseph really does not want to call him dad because there's certain situations where Joseph kind of falters as being a responsible person. But in the end, once Joseph actually proves to Joseph, look, I am a pretty freaking good person, I went on my way to almost kill myself to actually kind of reveal where this baby was, Joseph kind of realizes at that point that yes, he is a freaking good man. In the end, when it all just kind of sort of in a way mends itself, it just really worked. And I was kind of a little bit kind of tearing up as well. It did work. The whole entire episode did work in its own regard because it was really freaking funny as well. It managed to juxtapose the drama, which is kind of heavy in this episode, with the humour, and it works freaking down well in conjunction with each other. And I must say, it really does kind of work in each other. But it's just the main thing for me was the bonding part of it. Because really, if you strip away the baby, it still would be a bonding episode for Josuke and Joseph. Just to kind of see if there would be a relationship in there, to see whether or not they can actually be father and son. And maybe, probably down the line in this anime, it could still happen. There could be a way for them to kind of have a relationship, in the sense, maybe be able to be called father and son. And I would actually like to see that, because they do really work together. They kind of actually are be able to bounce off each other. They actually bounce off each other really freaking damn well. Again, in this episode, with the whole baby idea, and the whole, when Joseph reveals, oh my god, she's a girl, that whole scene's hilarious. They just bounce off each other really freaking well. So I would like to see their relationship kind of work out, because they do work freaking damn well together. And again, if we got more offshoot episodes with Josuke and Joseph just finding these random things in the middle of these places, it would be hilarious as well, because it's just, this episode was fantastic. And even that scene when Joseph had to go and buy some clothes for the baby, that whole scene was hilarious, because he didn't really know much of what's going on. And then when he kind of says, okay, so what's the exchange rate with this, with the money as well? Because he works in dollars and works in Japanese yen. He doesn't work in that kind of money, so he doesn't really know how expensive things can be. And in the end, he actually spends most of Josuke's like savings, and it was funny. Also, really liked the little sneaking of the Joestar actual emblem on Josuke's neck. I thought that was actually kind of neat. The little Joestar. I thought, that's actually really freaking cool. I thought that's one of those little sneakings that actually really worked in its own regard. But overall, freaking fantastic episode. So yes, with all that said, I've been a driver. If you leave a like, do leave a like, it doesn't quite a bit. If you enjoyed my content as a whole, do leave a sub, it doesn't quite a bit. But with all that said, I've been a driver, and I will see you guys later. Bye for now.